Hi guys, welcome back to BareNaked Meditations, BareNaked Conversations. BareNaked Meditations is a extension of BareNaked Mondays, which was a podcast in which me and a friend of mine dove into being authentic and being our true whole selves in a world where that's not always celebrated. And in just like BareNaked Mondays, BareNaked Meditations is about stripping down to who you really are, releasing the need to show up a certain way and be a certain thing, and just being who you really are. In BareNaked Mondays, we would talk about different topics and speak on how we felt about them, but also our experience in the world as it related to different things. And with BareNaked Meditations, it is me opening up this space to have a moment of mindfulness, of reflectiveness, and to share my story in hopes that it touches someone who needs it. And we're all going through a lot of the same things in different ways, and so I think it's important to have that energy and share and be open and transparent. I think it's helpful. And so that's what I'm attempting to do here with this channel and with these videos and these messages. It has been a while. So my last video was like 2 years ago. And when I think about content creation and all of this, I don't really see myself as a content creator. I feel like I'm prompted to do these videos by just like a call within myself to share. And to share in a way that's authentic and is true, in hopes that, again, that it can help somebody feel seen in their situation, maybe give them tips and tricks that I've been using to help me, and in hopes that it'll help somebody. So these videos aren't really for like a content creation purpose, but I guess it is content creation. But it's really just to kind of like create community in a way, and share my experience. And that's something that I've really been kind of called to do. Like I said, it's been a while since my last video. 2 years, so much has happened in the last 2 years. I will not go through it all. But the reason for this video and the title of this video is to have a meditation around grief and a conversation around grief. Again, I'm not going to dive into the last 2 years, although I feel like the last couple of years of my life have been filled with different forms of grief. And then it all came to head. I think in like last year, my father passed away from cancer. He was on hospice leading up to his transition. And so like the whole year last year was really grief. It was that expectatory grief, and then eventually the grief of a loss. So in dealing with that, and after his transition, walking through this journey of grief and understanding it as such, as a journey, learning what grief is, how to deal with it, dealing with it, and just journeying through it. I've learned so much about like myself, about the world, and about life in general throughout this process, that it was like, okay, this is a good topic, I feel like, to express and to put out there, because we're all dealing with grief in different ways, whether it be like a loss of a job, a friendship. As we age, I think there's a level of grief to losing our youth, whether you're dealing with health issues and different things. Like, grief comes in many different ways into our lives, and I think that as a society we're not really taught what to do with grief, what to do with endings in general, and how to handle death. And so in my journey, I just felt like, okay, maybe I should have this conversation and put it out there. So to rewind back to last year, my dad again was on hospice, and while he was on hospice, I was his caretaker in a sense. I wasn't his, like, full caretaker, because we decided to go the assisted living route, but I was the one handling the things and doing all the things for him. And so there was a level of me that was caught up in the work of it all. I still had to work. I still have a kid. I still have life. So I was doing all the life stuff and then taking care of his situation and all the things. And there was a moment where I realized, like, oh wait, he's on hospice and what that means. And it was like, I was like, oh, I need to prepare myself for what's about to happen. And I hadn't at all really sat with it. I was in go mode of like trying to figure out the things and make sure everything was handled. I didn't allow myself to like face the emotions and the feelings of it all. And so I, in preparation for me, when I'm one of those type of people, I like to like plan and do the things. And so, and granted, you can't plan for certain things, and losing a loved one, I don't think there's anything that you can do that will like just take away or absolve it. But you can have certain tools in place to help you. And so I picked up a book during while he was on hospice that really helped me out, and it was Seneca. It was a book by Seneca, the philosopher, and it's entitled How to Die. It's a compilation of essays by Seneca. He talked about death a lot, which is not something that people really do. It's a taboo subject. We don't like to talk about it too much, but he talked about it a lot in different essays and different things he wrote. And so the book is like a compilation of all those things, and it was very helpful in, for me, making peace with endings. Death comes to us in many different ways, and I have a hard time with endings. And so that book helped me to start the process of understanding that everything must end. And that was really important, because it took away from me the why. Like, the why is this happening? I'm not saying it totally absolved any of those feelings, but it was helpful in that experience of like, okay, everything must end, and really kind of swallowing that hard pill. It was a great book. One of the themes of the book is, if you know how to die, then you know how to live. And while death is a grim, like, dark topic that we don't want to focus on, it is important to, I think, have some understanding of it and have some awareness that we're all journeying in that direction, and it's the only thing that is for certain, and and all of this. And so making your peace with it, so that can't control you. The fear of death can sometimes make us do things that we wouldn't do, that may be out of our moral compass and different things. And it's like, if you know who you are and you can, you stand 10 toes in it, then that's saying, like, I'm gonna die up on this hill. Like, we revere people who who will die for a cause. It's some, not all of them, because some of them we'd be like, y'all crazy. But for the most part, like, if that's like a very heroic, but it's something that I think we all can have. And not to say like you should just be out here just trying to die. That's not it. Just understanding, however, like, that we're all gonna do that, and not compromising who you are and yourself out of fear of endings, because everything is gonna end. If you change your perspective on it, it can make life a little bit more sweet. But it is a hard pill to swallow. And so, long story short, that book really helped me. And then my father transitioned, and it's nothing that can really prepare you for that. Again, but things helped. And in the days and months that followed, I picked up another book. It's The Adult Orphan. And that book really spoke to adults as we grow older. Our parents grow older, and then eventually they pass away. And if you live, you're going to lose your parents at some point, unless you go for them, but you're going to lose your parents. And The Orphaned Adult is the title. I think I might have said it wrong, but The Orphaned Adult speaks to that loss of the parental loss. Have a certain empathy and a certain level of compassion for children who lose their parents. But usually when it's an adult, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's what happens. That's a natural process. And while it is still, you're still losing your parent, and there's still a little kid in you that is, whoa, emotions. But transparency is key. There is still a little kid in you that, that lost a parent. And that is a very challenging to navigate through, because you are an adult and you have responsibilities and all that things. And the world kind of just goes on. And that was one of the things that I think really stuck out to me. And I talked through with my therapist. Sidebar: if you're going through grief, if you're going through anything in life, therapy. I am an advocate for therapy. Finding a therapist, and Black people, find a Black therapist. You might have to move around and do some research, but therapy is helpful. And I think in the Black community, it is so important, because we're not really taught to talk about things. We're taught to keep things in. Don't talk about the family business. Don't cry, and we're just raised up in such a way where we hold stuff in so much. It's like, no, you got to get it out. You got to talk to somebody. So therapy is so helpful and so important. It's a wonderful tool in this life, and I am an advocate for it. But back to one of the biggest things after losing my dad was realizing that the world didn't stop. The world wasn't gonna stop. People were gonna go about their everyday life. Everybody was just going back to life, and I was like, oh, the world, wait, y'all aren't gonna stop because my life is, for me, there's a gaping hole and I don't know what the hell to do. I need everything to like shut off and shut down. And it was that realization of like, oh no, nothing's stopping. The bills are still coming, the responsibilities are still there, and life is still gonna go on. And that is a very challenging piece and aspect to grief. And so the Orphaned Adult really helped me feel seen as an adult losing a parent, and as an adult who's lost both my parents. And it was really, really helpful. It's written by, I think the guy who wrote it was a therapist or a psychologist. So it's written from that perspective of having the knowledge of in that interaction with different patients and different people. So he was able to give really, really good insights. And then he also had lost his parents. So it was really a really good book. I highly recommend. And then last but not least, I'm currently reading a book entitled Radical Acceptance. And it is about accepting the now, being in the moment, letting go of like yesterday and tomorrow and all the thoughts, and being really present in the moment. And I know there's a lot of different like ideas in mindfulness. That's the whole thing, being in the present moment. And the book really focuses on flowing with life, just in general, being in the moment, but also being compassionate with yourself in a way that you would with your friend or with your child. And I think a lot of times we're very hard on ourselves. So it's like, you shouldn't be feeling that, you know, you shouldn't be. And it's like, no, my feelings are valid, whatever they are. Allowing the feeling to be there and not judging it, observing it for what it is, and being present with it, feeling it, you know, and going through it. And overall, with grief, just in general, that is my overall advice. When we look about what is grief, one of the things from the Orphan Adult was like, grief is not depression. While it's very similar and you may go through bouts of depression with it, grief is more of a process and a journey. It is not something that is like it's one thing. It's this journey through so many different feelings and emotions and things. And it's important to know and differentiate that. And when you understand grief is like this journey and this process, you realize that it ebbs and flows, that it doesn't look one way, and that there's no real ending to it, you know? It's a journey. Just like life is just like this journey you're journeying on. There's no end, you know, and not to say, I mean, there is an end, right? But grief, no matter how old I get, there's always gonna be a piece of that there. And so understanding that, you know, you kind of learn how to journey through it. At first, it's like you're being thrown into the wild, you know, and you're not prepared. And it's like, what the, you know. But you gain the tools and you learn the terrain and you venture through it and you journey. And over time, you learn how to deal with it, you know. You learn where to sleep and what to do and how to eat, you know, in this space, and you learn how to live with it. And so I think when I think of grief, that's how I see it. It's not this monster. I feel like most people think like it's this monster that comes in and terrorizes. Grief really is, it's love, you know. Lauren London said it at Nip's funeral. She said, you know, grief is the final act of love. And, you know, it's something that I talked about with my therapist. It's just like, you know, you grieve a lot because you loved a lot, you know, and grief is love's last hurrah. And so when you look at it like that, it's like it has its place, and you don't look at it like it's this intruder that's not supposed to be here, but it deserves to be here because there was love present. And now, you know, and now that love has transitioned, there's this grief. And so understanding the journey, the process, and what grief is, again, different grief. There's, you know, I think one thing I can say is like losing a parent, there is a part of you that understands it's the natural process. Whereas like I feel like someone who loses a child or certain things like that, the unnaturalness of it makes the grief, I think, worse. And so I understand that it's not one size fits all. It's not just this is the way. And so that's why I highly recommend therapy and doing what you need to do for your mental health, because again, it's not one size fits all. And so these are little gems that I've picked up, but you know, if you need, if you know, you got to do what you got to do. So like being self-reflective, being understanding yourself, being aware. Maybe you need to talk to somebody, you know, maybe you don't, but just sit with yourself enough to know if that's, you know, if that's needed. So yeah, understanding what is grief, and then understanding that getting through it is really just a journey and a process, has really helped me. It has really helped me. And those books, those 3 books, helped me to come to the conclusion and to where I am today. I feel like, you know, I wouldn't say like I'm better because of it, but it has evolved me. You know, it has evolved me. I'm a grown-ass woman now. If I wasn't a grown-ass woman before, I'm a grown-ass woman now. I don't say that with any, like, you know, like any air of conceitedness or nothing like that. It's really just I feel like it's what's the word? It's like an initiation, you know. It's like, okay, now you go, you know, now it's time to put your big girl britches on, and you really out here now, and it's scary, but it's also, you know, again, referring to the late and great Nipsey Hussle, the game gonna test you, but never fold. And so life gon' life, but I think, you know, it's in those times where you really get to see who you are. Yeah. And so that is my synopsis of my journey through grief and with grief, and I hope that it's helpful. Definitely, if you're journeying through grief, if you're going through grief in any way, feel free to, you know, write a comment below and tell me your story. You can relate, you know, build community. All right, so now we're gonna get ready to get into this meditation. If you need to pause the video and come back, get yourself together, that's fine. Feel free to do that. But if you're ready, we are going to get into this meditation. So once you are in a comfortable position, you're going to, in comfortable position meaning you don't have to be sitting crisscross applesauce. You know, you just make sure your back is straight, that you're in a comfortable seated position, that you find you a nice quiet area, and we're going to get started. All right, so you're going to close your eyes, and we're going to start with 3 deep breaths. Going to inhale deep into your abdomen, allow your ribs and your abdomen to expand, and you're going to hold it and then release. And you want to let that breath all the way out, right? So we're going to start. Here we go. Inhale. Hold at the top and release. Inhale. Hold at the top and release. Last one, inhale. Hold at the top and release. Now I want you to imagine, and that's right, we're using our imagination. I want you to imagine your childhood home or a place where you felt safe as a child. This could be anywhere. I want you to trust your instincts in this moment. Whatever comes to mind, trust it and go with it. But you're going to use your imagination to imagine that place that you felt safest as a child. and really immerse yourself. What does it smell like? What can you hear? Is there a breeze? Is it warm? Really envision that place that you felt safest. And as you walk into this place, I want you to go into a room. If you're in your childhood home, find a room in that home that made you, where you felt comfortable, that brought you joy. If it's not a home, if it's somewhere outdoors or a building, go to the place in that space where you spent the most time, that you enjoyed the most. And once you're in that space, I want you to find the center and have a seat. And as you're seated in your imagination, I want you to return to your breaths. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. Inhale. Hold at the top and release. Inhale. And release. Inhale. And release. Now, as you're sitting in this space, I want you to imagine now that grief has arrived. Again, trusting your instincts. Go with it. Whatever you envision grief to look like. Whether it is a character, a person, a figure, whatever you think of when you think of grief. Trust that imagination. Trust your imagination. Allow grief to come into that space. And grief sits down with you in this space, in your comfortable space. Imagine that grief is there with you now. Imagine that grief, as you're sitting with it, says to you, or writes in a note, or in some way communicates with you that it needs something from you. Allow yourself to trust your instincts, whatever comes to mind first. Envision, what does grief need from me? I want to allow you to sit with this. If your mind drifts off, that is okay. That is what the mind does. Just bring it back to the moment by remembering your breath and focusing on your breath. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to sit with grief. To sit with what grief is asking of you. Allow your emotions and your feelings. They are all valid. Take your time here. Now, I want you to take 3 deep breaths. You're going to inhale deep. Hold at the top. And release. Inhale. Hold at the top. And release. Last one. Inhale. Hold at the top. And release. Now I want you to envision that grief is ready to exit. But before grief leaves, grief gives you a warm embrace, a big hug, and thanks you. Allow whatever emotions and feelings come with that as grief exits. I want you to think about whatever it was that grief needed from you. And whether or not you felt like you can give it. Again, allow the thought. You don't judge it, you just observe it. If you feel that you need to sit with this, please feel free to take more time. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the world around you. And lastly, before you jump back into the swing of things, I want to take a final cleansing inhalation and release. Let it all go. I want to thank you for joining me for this conversation and meditation. Again, it is a call that I feel to share, and if you feel called to share in the comments below, please feel free to tell me your story with grief, your journey, and your process, and any tips that you may have. It can help. Also, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you stayed on for the conversation and meditation, it is greatly appreciated. But definitely, if you felt that anything in this video resonated, if you liked it at all, it helps to like and share and subscribe to the channel. I would love the support. Again, I am full of gratitude for you joining me for this, and I pray that your journey through grief is smooth, and that you find your way, and that you feel seen in all of this. And until next time, I'm sending you all of the love, all of the light, all of the care. I will try to make sure that the next video is not as far away as this video is from the last. Thank you again, and I hope you have a blessed day, a blessed week. Until next time.